Hey everyone, this is Elias from RevMatch Media. Today we have the 2020 Fiat 500L. Now, this little guy, or maybe not so little guy, looks like, you know, those toys where you add some water and they grow. I think that's what Fiat did to this. So let's take a look at some of the cool things this little guy, or big guy, has to offer. We gotta admire the blue tornado color that this is in. I love it. It's got a nice deep, like blue purple look to it. Now with this being the trekking option, we have the front end is gonna be a little bit different. It's gonna have a more rugged look to it. You know, we have kind of the bottom area here is a little bit, again, more on the rugged side, but as you can see, it's fairly low, so it's not something you wanna really take off-road. We have our lighting package here, which works great. Tons of lighting, which does the job. Now that we're under the hood, we can see that this has the 1.4 liter, what they call MultiAir Turbo inline 4. It does crank out 160 horsepower with 184 pound-feet of torque. It is connected to a 6-speed automatic. Now this drivetrain is a little, I guess old school in the sense that it has very old school power. So the torque is really from 2,500 to 4,000 RPM, so it flattens out, but it feels a little bit later than that, and it has a very old school, like turbo, you know, turbo power, turbo lag. Really, this does have turbo lag. You can feel it. It takes a while to get up to that RPMs, and then when it does, it goes really quickly. So the turbo kicks in and you do have some turbo lag. It does make the tires break free a little bit if you're on first or second gear. But overall, I mean, and that's again, if you're really pushing it. Everyday use though, it's fine. You may not even be on turbo power the majority of the times. The gearing is nice enough so that it gives you a good RPM range. Now, when you do have to accelerate or floor it, it does get a little loud, but in a struggling loud kind of way. Not the 500 Abarth way where you wanted to make that little thing scream. But again, for what this is, this isn't a performance vehicle. It's an everyday use. It works well. Now, and when we take a look at things down here, we can see the turbo is right here. So, you know, one of the things as a car owner, a non-turbo car owner, is I'm always concerned about these turbocharged engines from factory that, you know, the turbos may go out and then you're having to spend a good amount of money to replace them. Not just the parts aren't too bad, but it's a lot of times it's the labor. But this looks really easy. It's literally there. I can, yeah, that's kind of hot, but it's right there. So maintenance makes it fairly easy to, you know, should you need to repair that. You know, you have your oil cap here, fairly easy to access, your dipstick. The belt looks like it's a little bit of a pain. You might have to really take off the wheel and go from under, very similar to my car. But overall, it's actually, even though it's a small space, it has a good amount of space. But yeah, overall, it's a great everyday use engine, but don't expect it to be a Abarth 500 kind of power or growl to it. Now, coming down to the wheel package, we can see we have the 17-inch wheel on this 500, and because it's the trekking, these are actually unique to the trekking. So the design is nice. You know, it's not something wow, but I like it. It's a simple design, gets the job done, nice size as well. So I feel like the 17 is definitely the way to go. And we have the 225/45 Continental tires on this, which worked good. It did the job. It did the job of giving you enough grip so you feel safe. When we did hit the torque curve of the turbo, or the turbo kicked in, first and second gear, you can feel the wheels were wanting to spin. Maybe slightly a little stickier tire for not just performance, but also, you know, that safety. Because again, you're not really taking this out on the track, but you want to make sure your family is nice and safe. Now, let's take a look at the side. We get to the side and we can see there's definitely a unique design to this. The side profile is really not much like you've seen in other cars, but it has some great styling cues. One of them is because this is a trekking option, we do have the flared fenders, which is just a small little plastic thing, but that is unique to this model. The other thing I love about this, which we'll take a look at later, is the A-pillar. So the A-pillar is definitely a unique design, because it's kind of like you have an A-pillar and then like a little bit of an A-pillar more, or A-plus pillar, I guess. But that allows for this window here. This little triangle kind of window here really opens up the visibility. So you're not dealing with the typical issues of having a big blind spot because of a big A-pillar. So this is definitely one of my favorite things. My wife got in it and immediately noticed it, and she says, wow, I can actually see out and not be worried about, is something blocking my view. So one of my favorite things here. And again, we can see this is the 4-door. It is a fairly bigger 500 from what you're really used to. Again, I feel like this was one of those toys you add water and it just went it just kind of grew. So it does work. It has a lot of space. And again, we have another rear window here that opens it up and lets you see a lot going on in the back. Or it just gives you, like, if you feel like you're in a glass bubble to kind of see what's out there and enjoy the outdoors, especially with what's going on in the world. It's nice to get outside while you're inside. Now, let's go ahead and head to the back and take a look at that. We get to the back and we can see it's definitely a quirky design. So we have a nice little headlight design here, adds to the quirkiness of the design. And we have the rear hatch. It's big, so it's definitely a big hatch, but I don't know, it definitely is part of the quirky design of the 500L. But it works well. Now, when we take a look at the key fob, it's a little on the simple side. Granted, it's, don't expect too much, but again, you're not paying too much for this relatively. But we have the key fob, just has your simple lock, unlock, and hatch. But when you press the hatch, it's just to unlock it, because you still do have to press the button under there to get it to open up. Now, when you open it up, it's a big opening, but it's not very deep. So that's one thing where, I kind of was hoping for more. I think the space was more proportionally towards the passengers inside. But again, don't expect too much. It's not too bad, but you may not be able to do a whole road trip for multiple days with all 5 people that this can carry. So just be aware of that. Some people may have to be, have their luggage in their lap to have enough space for everything. But other than that, it works well. It does have, this one, you do have to option it out with a spare tire, so it comes with that. And it does have the Beat system. There is a subwoofer back here. Dear God, that thing is loud, and it works really well. But we'll talk about how we need to fix a little bit of that later on in the review. But overall, it's an okay space. I don't think we can do our bulk shop at our wholesale club, so to speak, because I don't think we'll have space for our usual stuff. But it's a nice big door. It's not too heavy. All you have to do is, leverage itself. The shocks work really well to lift it up, and it's a fun, quirky design. Now let's go inside. I want to show you something else that I love about this little guy, or this little big guy, and then we'll go for a drive. One of the things I wanted to show you guys inside, because it is hot outside, is the Dual-Pane Sunroof. Now, this has a couple of things that are really great. One of them is this sunshade, this little sunshade. It's a white cloth, so it does let in some of the light in, but it gives you such a soft light. You can see the sun is blaring down. The sun is blaring down on top, but because it's white, first of all, it's fairly cool. And second of all, because it's white, it softens it up or just disperses the light. If you're a photographer, videographer, you know what I'm talking about. And it gives you a better feeling. It feels very airy, very light in here. This is incredible. The fact that the Fiat engineers chose this, or I don't know if this is standard in the white color because the interior is really black, but this really works. And you can see the sun's getting brighter now, but it's not too bad. It's not too bad. But again, because it's such a large white surface, it disperses the light a lot softer. And it's not super dark in here, so that makes things great. But it's just a flick of a button and I can open it up, and that is just moving the sunshade. So I still have a window there. And looks like you guys can see this. So then I can move this back, and then that really lets in the light. And yeah, I mean, that's gonna give you your sunroof. It isn't open all the way, so it's just over my head with the opening, because it has the moonroof in the back that you can see, or that, yeah, that fixed glass, which is great for the kiddo. Kiddo loved it. But then we close that. And then, again, it just has such a great amount of light in here. And that's what I really like about the interior of this. It gives you like a 360-degree view of light. So it's you know, you can see with those little triangles, with just all, you know, the nice big windows, there's a lot of light in here. Well, enough talking, guys. Let's go out for a drive. So you get inside of the Fiat 500L and you go for a ride, and at first you get inside and you're pretty impressed. So there's some great things about this. There's some things that could use some work, but let's get started on the usual stuff. Let's get started with the steering wheel. So the steering wheel, if you guys have seen my Fiat 500 Abarth review, is the steering wheel felt large. I mean, yeah, it felt really large. And this feels great. This is a good size, and it's psychological. I know for a fact that it's psychological because this is about the same size as the Abarth. The problem is that with that tinier car, significantly tinier car, the wheel felt big in that. But this feels nice. It's got a nice soft leather, which is good. It's like a padded leather, but it's not too much so that, you know, it feels like fat and like, you know, squishy, but it's got a nice smooth texture to it as well. So I'm really liking the texture of this wheel. So that's definitely a plus. We have your standard controls. We have you know, your things to go through the menus on the dashboard. Not too many options. Didn't really expect too many. I mean, you don't really need too many in a car like this. And then you have your cruise control, your Bluetooth voice command options, and of course my favorite, the back buttons to control the volume and the track. The only thing is that these do feel different from the other FCA items. These feel a little softer. They feel a little softer. They don't seem to have quite the bite or the typical, not just the bite, but the like clicking or just kind of textile feel that I had with the other one. So it is a little bit different, but they're still there. They're still great. Obviously the function for them is the important thing. So we have that. Then we get to the gauge clusters. Very simple. I mean, we have your speedometer, your center gauge that is dynamic. It has different things that you can kind of go through. So you have like your vehicle information, your speedometer, your trip, vehicle information, audio, navigation. You know, you have any messages for you know, any maintenance or things like that. But yeah, it does the job. It's very simple, very to the point, right? And then we have the seats. So I want to talk about the seats. These are very comfortable seats. Nice design to them, nice feel to them as well. This does have something that I've never been able to get right in any other car other than this, and that's lumbar support. It literally has like a weird electric button. I don't know if it's a weird button, but it's an electric button where you push it and the lumbar support comes out and it's at a fixed position, but it's at the best position that I've had. I've never been able to get lumbar support to work on any car for my back. So typically I just you know, take off all the lumbar support and I just kind of want to sink into it. So, you know, just kind of sink into the seat. But not this. This was perfect in the right position. So I pressed it, it came out, and it worked. Weird thing is, it is kind of awkwardly positioned at the top of the on the side, on the top, like kind of flat, as well as the heated seats. I didn't know this had heated seats. So it's a little button, and yeah, kind of a weird spot to put them in, because then if you accidentally push it on while maybe you're getting in or something like that, or you know, you accidentally just push it, you're wondering, why is my butt getting warm? But yeah, so it's down there. But the seats are great. They're comfortable. I love them. You know, they're very supportive, which is nice. They're not super racy, so don't expect to, you know, hit the curves and, you know, go on canyon carving and have them hold you in place. But again, that's not what this car's for. Its practical use is great. Now that we have that, let's come back to the dash. So we have this really amazing colored design on the dash. It's painted the same color as the car, and it looks really awesome. Like, I like the design element of it. I like the color. This color is so nice. It's definitely a nice blue, but it works really well in here. And we have our Uconnect 4. We have our Uconnect 4, which any FCA car has it. Well, current FCA car has it, and it's great. It works awesome. But this screen is tiny. This screen is really tiny. It's very granted, the Fiat, the 500 Abarth was the same, but that's because the screen was tiny. The bezel area was tiny. This is not. This bezel has a good inch on each side, and we have these two buttons here. Let's make these fully touchscreen, or let's use some of these blanks. I don't know what these blank panels are here for, but let's maybe take off those features, because obviously it's not something that I'm missing or wanting really, and put your volume and your tune buttons here, and let's make this screen bigger. It's begging for a bigger screen, and it has the space for it too. So I don't know, that this is one thing that I would say, let's change it up. You know, the system is great itself, but I need more space. I need a lot more space for this screen, because it's a great system, but I need more. And when you really crank up this system, it's a Beats system. Now, I'm not a big fan of Beats, especially their headphones, but this thing surprised me. Well, I did have to tweak it. So there were some things I needed to change. The high end are extremely harsh, so I did have to reduce that. Once I reduced that though, which was a couple of buttons, because the system's actually, like I said, pretty good to navigate, it fell in so well. It fell in incredibly well. it was loud, and it's clear too. So low notes are hitting hard. Mid-range is just, you know, filling in, and high ends are just nice and crisp after you tune it right. But again, it wasn't something where I was like finessing and having to like, okay, what's gonna be. I immediately knew what was. You can hear it, and the 3 simple treble bass and mids were perfect. I mean, the frequencies at range were great. Then you come over here a little more on the dash, and you have some great things. There's this little opening that's really nice. Little opening that you can put things, which is great. Like if you're a passenger and you want to put some things, you know, just kind of want to hide or just store some items, it's nice there because it's not something you have to open or close. You know, it's just readily available. Maybe you want to rest your phone there, you can rest your phone there and be done with it. But it has this really nice little compartment up here. So it has like a dual glove box, and that little guy is incredible. You know, there's a lot of space. It's really deep. When my wife saw it, she goes, whoa, that's a lot of space. And it is. So it's a very practical function. So definitely something you want to enjoy, and it just works really well. Again, with that little design there, but you still have your traditional glove box. You still have the area at the bottom where you can put things in there that maybe you're not gonna, you know, access as much. You know, your vehicle registration, your proof of insurance, that stuff, which hopefully you won't have to use in, you know, in obvious situations. But not like you're gonna be able to really speed in this. But you have that there, so it's really nice. And actually, before we go any lower, we also have this area up here, which is nice. It's like a, I guess it's like a cell phone holder. I don't know. There is a blank panel there. I don't know if that, you know, has the function of being a wireless charger. If it does, that would be great, because that's a great spot to have the phone away. My only concern will probably be the heat. Not just coming from the charger itself, but from the top, because it is hot in Texas. Currently it's about 84, but we're going to be seeing triple digits today. But yeah, that would be nice to have there. Maybe a little door to close it and kind of seal it and not have any hot outside air coming in. But that's nice. Or if you want to put your glasses there, that's most likely what it's for. That works really well there. We come down to the AC controls. Very simple, very easy to learn. There's nothing more than having extremely complicated controls, and you're you're dying of heat, or you're freezing, and you're trying to figure out how to use this. But it's very simple. It's very to the point. It works. Then we come down here and we have our USB port. So it has a USB-A port, it has your 12-volt adapter as well, and we have our traction control button here. Then we have this really awesome little area here, which is where I've been really putting my phone. So my phone has just been kind of plugged in and being charged in there. It makes it nice. It's kind of away from me, and it does the job. There's a lot of space in there. My wife was also able to put her phone there if she didn't want to put it in there, but there's a lot of useful space. So this is very, very well thought out and very well laid out. Now we come to the shifter, and you know, very simple shifter. It does have a leather wrapped shifter, and it has this cool little button. It's a little 500 button on it, which is nice little touch. You can kind of undo that and you know, if you have to work on it. So that's a nice little thing there. Going to the back, we can see there is a ton of space. It's actually pretty spacious in the back. You have a good amount of leg room. My kid's seat was very easy to place in this, which I always repeat it, but you guys know my kid's seat is a little more on the reclined, so sometimes having to take off the headrest, which is what I did in this case, but it was very easy to take off, you know, and set it up, and you know, no hassles to it. Like I said, there's plenty of space. There's a USB port down there. it works well. It's a good people hauler. And you know, it's very airy in here. And that's what I want to talk about next, is there is so much light that comes in here. And the way that this was designed, you can easily have almost like a 360-degree view and not have too many panels just kind of obstructing your view. So one of my favorite things about the 500L is the A-pillar. The A-pillar is kind of like divided in two, but we have the A-pillar here, and we have the A+ pillar. I don't know, but you know, it works very well to have that nice little window there, and your visibility is excellent in this. I have never felt, you know, this. It's definitely a different feeling because you feel like you're in a bubble. I mean, you can kind of tell it looks like a bubble, but it in a good way, because you have so much visibility. Nice big, you know, front windshield. You have the A-pillar little window, and it works well because there's nothing more dangerous than having an A-pillar that's so big and thick or positioned in. The worst thing is having it in position in a way that obstructs your view. This works well. I can clearly see this, and that's one of the things when my wife got in the car, she goes, wow, I can really see, you know, a lot that's going on. I don't have to worry about, you know, a big heavy A-pillar that is blocking my view. So definitely one of my my favorite things about the 500L. And it just starts there, because when you go up, you have this massive sunroof / moonroof, the biggest of its class. But it also has this white shade. So it has this white shade. It's kind of one of those it's kind of like a screen. Think of it like a screen. And it closes all the way, obviously. But what I like about it is that it's white. It's white, so when you are, you know, you have it closed, it's gonna give you a very soft light. It's like having, if you're a photographer or videographer, it's about having a soft light that makes the inside so pleasing. You don't have the harsh. Now it's a little harsh right now because I have the shade open so that I can mount this GoPro here to the sunroof. But with the shade, it gave us the softest white light, and it just felt so incredible in here. It's so weird to say that, but I've never dealt with a car where I feel like the lighting inside was taken into consideration. And I think this was. I don't think this is a mistake. I think it was done on purpose. But it felt so nice to have nice, bright, but soft light. It's definitely one of my favorite things about this car. And it works really well. So if you have the option or you have the money, that's the other thing you definitely want to spend money on and get that. And you also have, again, the sunroof, which you can do halfway. You can do half, so it does half the sunroof, and then the back part is the moonroof. We went on some mountain driving around here, or hills here in Austin, and we had a blast. You know, we were just kind of enjoying the scenes, and my kiddo was able to see in the back and, you know, really enjoy the views. Talking about the trunk though, it could use a little bit of work. It could use a little bit of work. It is on the smaller side, so if you're going to be hauling 5 people, just take into account you may not have enough space for all their luggage. Now let's talk drivetrain. This has a 1.4 liter, 160 horsepower, 184 pound-feet of torque. It is a turbocharged engine, inline 4, and it's not the fastest. Don't expect record-breaking numbers. Don't expect, super, just don't expect it. But it does well. It does well. It has, the 6-speed connected to it, automatic in this case, and when I go into manual mode, it does a really good job. I can accelerate all the way, and it won't shift like other automatics in manual mode do. So that's a nice feature, that it holds the gear like it should in a manual mode. So this works well. Now when we're going off the line, it does have turbo lag, or even if you're just kind of cruising and you want to accelerate, you do feel the turbo lag. It does say that the torque is from about 2,500 to 4,000 is the torque curve, or the max. So it's plateaus, but it doesn't feel that way. I probably didn't feel it till about 3,000, if not almost the 4,000 mark, because there's a significant amount of turbo lag. I was kind of surprised. I was wondering. I was like, yeah, it just, and when you're on a lower gear and the turbo kicks in, you do get some torque steer. So obviously, again, this isn't something you're going to go on the track, but if you need to accelerate, in a passing situation, just be prepared that if you're at a slower speed, you're gonna get the torque steer. Now, with the automatic though, when you really accelerate it, like I said, it works really well, but the engine sound is a little struggling. So you can kind of hear that it's struggling when you're at the higher RPMs. And it's not a pleasing sound though. That's one thing that I was kind of surprised with this, because it just didn't sound, it just didn't sound good. I guess I was expecting Abarth sounds and crack, snapple, and pops kind of situation, but I don't know. It just, something about it just, it sounds like a small. Granted, it is, I understand it's a small, 1.4 liter engine. I guess I was just expecting more on that, but it works well for what it needs to do everyday driving. It works well. It gives you your little boost when you need it. And when we're dealing with the gas mileage at 25 miles per gallon, combined 22 city and 30 highway, for a big vehicle like this, and that little engine, it's a pretty good option, or pretty good numbers. And it just does very well for everyday use, like I said. The other thing that I was surprised is the turning radius. This thing has a really good turning radius. I want to say, I believe it's the best in its class, but it definitely had one of the best turning radiuses that I've dealt with. And because again, even though it's a 500 and it's a Fiat, it's supposed to be a tiny car, it's not a tiny car. It's a fairly large sized car. The brakes are really good in this. So yeah, we just encountered some deer, but thankfully they didn't cross and I was able to stop. So that performance is good. And the turning radius, again, it's excellent. So it really was great. For, again, you want to have that turning radius, because when you have this in the city and you're in a, there's tons of parking spots that are so cramped and so difficult to kind of maneuver, you don't have that much space to maneuver. Having the best turning radius is a great thing. So having a great turning radius really helps you out and making this a useful vehicle. And I think I can see why you would want to get this. It's definitely a great little package that, it's a little swollen up from the 500 Abarth, or the standard 500, but it works really well. It has a good package. Granted, there's some things that can be changed or should be changed, but overall, it's a pretty good vehicle. And for the price, what else would I consider? I would say maybe the Kia Soul. The Kia Soul was maybe, you know, definitely a contender with this, which would be something that I would consider with this if that's the market you're looking for. It is the one that I really love. I love the Kia Soul. It just works really well. But I don't know, there's something about just having this Italian, you know, the Italian design, just Italian quirks, so to speak, that gives this little guy some character. Again, guys, I hope you enjoyed my review. I really had a blast driving this around, and remember, find the right gear.